Jams, jams, jams. Picture books and jams. Welcome, everybody, to PBJamz. Music and picture books, what a perfect sandwich. Squish them all together, what a yummy snack. PBJamz, yummy books and music. PBJamz, reading, writing, teaching. PBJamz, what a yummy treat. Jamming PBs all the time. PBJamz.
Good morning or afternoon, whenever it is you are joining us for this very first PBJamz of 2025. We are super stoked that you are with us, and I am so happy. I think this is the first time on PBJamz that we have had a co-authored book with both authors here with us. So I am very, very stoked. And not only that, but Jolene is a fantastic friend of mine. We have connected so many times and in so many ways in the Kidlit community. She's come and done presentations virtually for my local reading council. She's been on PBJamz before, and I'm excited to welcome her son Dakota to join us today. Yes, and we're going to be talking about MAMIACHI and Me, a fantastic picture book that they worked together. Look at that. It is so gorgeous. So gorgeous. So welcome, you guys, and thank you for being here.
And thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tani.
Yeah, so we're recording this over Thanksgiving break, and so Dakota's on break from school, and Jolene and I are both on holiday, and so they've squeezed out time to be with me, and I am so happy to be able to talk about their books. So let's dig in. What inspired this book? How did you come to want to write it, and how did you come up with the idea to write it together?
So I need to talk a little bit about the book that I co-wrote with my daughter Cheyenne,
Of course.
because that is what inspired then this partnership. But even prior to that, I need to talk about my kids being babies. So when they were little, my husband is from Mexico, and I looked for all kinds of books with Spanish language, traditions, culture, holidays, anything that I could find to immerse them into their culture. And that was over 20, almost 25 years ago when we're talking about my daughter. And those books existed, but they were harder to find. Now we have so many beautiful options, but really it was the thought of that. And when Cheyenne and I started working on our book, The Ofrenda that we built, that came out in fall of 24, that was really kind of part of what was guiding us. Like these are the books that I looked for you guys when you were young, and now we can create them together. And so Cheyenne and I worked on the Ofrenda manuscript during COVID while she was learning from home. She was home from college and I was teaching from home. And that was so beautiful to be able to create that with her. And at that point, it hadn't sold as a manuscript. We were just trying to create hopeful things, something that brought us some joy during that tough time. And then also still during COVID, I'm up here at my office in my room teaching, and my husband takes a break from working virtually and comes up and says, I just heard this on NPR, this interview with this all-female mariachi group. And I misunderstood him and thought he said all-female mamiachi group. And I was like, I don't know if I should be offended. I don't know if why did you just call them mamiachis? And he's like, I didn't. So my brain and my hearing as it's starting to go as I'm getting older, I'm like, oh, okay, I misheard that, but it's a really cool word. And like, if that's not a book, that should be a book. So I Googled it and I didn't see anything with Mamiachi in the title. And so Dakota has a really strong tie to music. And since I'd written with Shy, I approached Dakota.
Yeah, and my view on this was, pretty much everyone really deserves the opportunity to, be able to present and pursue music. And also on top of that, everyone should have the opportunity to get on a stage or in front of people and show their passion, whatever that may be. So even though this might be a little odd having an all-female cast in the book and having, my mom and myself being a guy, it might be a little odd, but it's mainly just the empowerment that everyone deserves the spotlight, and it's not just, age or gender or any of those. It's about the person. So yeah.
Yeah, I love that. As a music teacher and a musician myself, I'm all about that. And the girl power aspect of this is just so beautiful. And I'm a brass player. So, yeah, mariachi music is like way cool. I love it. I love when our local restaurant has the mariachi band coming in. And so, but yeah, I don't think in all the, which my experience is very limited, but I don't think I've ever seen a female with the group that I've seen. So it was very intriguing to me to hear that here's this all female group. And I love that aspect. Now, I don't think this was a question that I prepared y'all for, but I'm just curious as an author myself. So the logistics of writing with someone else. So Dakota, I'm assuming like you're not agented and haven't been through that whole process, right?
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. So how did that work logistically, Jolene?
So that was my agent, Caitlin Sanchez. We'd already kind of gone through this with Cheyenne, and I have a few other co-authored
Right.
pre-published projects. So Caitlin, prior to kind of all of that, had said, you really need to figure out a co-authorship contract. So I had done research
Right.
around that and created a contract that she helped me with, basically laying out our information, the fact that each author gets 50%, that it's an equal split.
Right.
So even though they're my kids, we still signed that just kind of as a best practice.
Sure.
But that's, yeah. So, and then Caitlin represents both of us. I think,
Yes.
when it's a co-authorship and each has their own agent, that's a different discussion. And I don't know honestly what that looks like.
Right.
But for us, Caitlin represented both of us for this project.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I do have a lot of authors that watch, and so I knew they would be interested in that. And I'm sorry I didn't give you a heads up about that question, but
Oh,
thank
that's
you
fine.
for indulging me with that. So let's talk about, I mean, obviously this book is replete with musical connections. I mean, the whole basis of it is musical in its entirety. However, let's dig into that a little bit deeper and talk about the musical connections. And Dakota, I'm particularly interested in your musical background and maybe how that played in. I know you were talking a little bit about that before, so if you want to dig into that a little deeper, I'd love for you to do that too.
Yeah, of course. So when I was about 7 or 8, I started getting like formal lessons in violin. And then through my school, when I was 8, I joined their orchestra. And so my sister was already part of the orchestra, and she was really a big role model. She played viola, and looking up to her, it's always like I need to follow my big sister's steps. So of course I had to join the orchestra, and I played in it for a few years, and I really enjoyed it. And then one of my buddies came to me and was like, "You should join choir with me." And I was like, "Well, wait a minute. I'm in orchestra. Like all of this is going on. Like, okay, maybe I should." And so I joined the choir that we have at our school, and I liked that a little bit more, honestly. So I pursued that rather than the orchestra. But regardless, it was performing arts, and really what I found from choir was some really good connections, and it pushed me to go into the deeper into the performing arts, I'll say. And so I joined the theater program, and I've been in like a number of musicals and plays. And recently during college, I bought myself a bass guitar, and it's less formal lessons. I'm teaching myself how to play it. You just search up music online and you start strumming along, and you'll find your own pace and how to play the instrument. And that's really what it came down to for me, at least for the performing arts, was there's a huge range of teachers that you can have, people surrounding you that you can have, but also on top of that, it comes down to you and the passion that you have for it. So if you really want to pursue it, whatever it may be, there's always an opportunity to get involved in the performing arts. And yeah, that's a depth into my music connectivity for this project. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. So let's talk specifically Mamiachi and Me then, the musical connections that you'd like to highlight from this book.
So I feel like there are so many different ways you could tie into music here. And before I say that, can I just say, I was thinking as he was talking, I really want to give a shout out to his school district, Mapleton School District, because they have made it a priority, even with all the budget cuts and things like that, to make performing arts like one of their focuses. And they offered a 0 hour before school started to kind of allow students to really delve more deeply into that passion. And they provided instruments affordably for students to rent. And so it just made it so accessible for all of their students. And so their performing arts department is thriving, and it's so beautiful to like, it was such a gift to be in a district
And
like that.
I mean, to build off of that a little bit, I was in the Wizard of Oz musical right when COVID was starting, and our directors were really just hurt that COVID had, you know, stampeded our plans a little bit. And so we tried to come up with all these solutions of, can we do it online? Can we any way possible, can we make this happen? And it unfortunately didn't work out. We had one performance and then the show got canceled after that. Um, but like the school district was really pushing for that. In addition to that, my senior year, I tried to join the mariachi group, but COVID had again, gotten in the way of some of those dreams a little bit. But those programs are back at that school district at Mapleton, and they have a new performing arts building. And it seems that, and I've gone and seen some of the plays and musicals that they've had in recent years after I've graduated, and it really seems like there's a passion there for it. And all of the teachers that I've had that were teaching me this, the students look up to them, and that's the biggest thing, is they make it enjoyable for everyone. It's something that should be shared.
School music programs, I think, are so important for, I mean, I can attest to that as well from my end here, because, growing up, my family didn't really have the money for private piano lessons or anything like that. Like, we wouldn't have had the money for private lessons. But when I got into school band, it was, like you said, Jolene, very affordable, and my parents could, support my musical goals in that way. And so that's where I began to get my formal music training, was in middle school when I started band. And so those school music programs are foundational, as Dakota was mentioning, for just getting that start. And then you can figure out what you're passionate about, and then you can pursue that either on a college level, or personally, as you're doing with the bass guitar, which, so many musicians are absolutely self-taught and they don't have any formal training. So, the world really is your oyster, but oftentimes it is school music programs that give us that boost to start figuring out what we love, and the basics of musicality and learning to read music and those kinds of the rhythmic pieces. So yeah, thanks for that. The music teachers who are tuning in are going to be very happy to hear that little bit of our conversation, for sure.
That
So
makes me happy. Yeah, you guys deserve every bit of kudos, and it ties into so many different other areas in life. Cheyenne, my daughter, your sister, like her math skills, went up exponentially. Yours too, like it just, the language piece, reading the music, the performance, the confidence, like it's just, it ties into lots of areas. I know,
I do. Yeah. I'm a big music integration person. Absolutely. Yeah.
So for our book, I feel like there are so many different things you can do. Some of the instruments are potentially new to students. So just listening to the sounds of the different instruments, if you can find that information online. Mamiachi here has a guitarrón, which is a type of a bass guitar. There's an instrument in here called vihuela, which might be new to some students, but also just listening to instruments in isolation there, like I said, so that those are introduced. And then talking about potentially other instruments that could be in a mariachi ensemble. Harp is something that we did not include in this.
Oh.
And there are other, sometimes there are multiple violins or so there are lots of ways an ensemble can look, which I think is interesting to talk about. And this doesn't totally tie into the music piece, but when you're talking about the way an ensemble can look, obviously in this book, we're talking also gender. We're talking about what the suits, the trajes de charro, can look like. Mamiachi is wearing a more traditional traje de charra, I should say, kind of like a cowgirl outfit. It's a traditional costume. And then the fact that Rosa is wearing pants is a little bit goes against tradition. And so just talking even about that, and not every mariachi group wears even these costumes. They may wear something different. So that piece is something you can look for. And then listening to different mariachi groups, listening to all female groups, and how do they sound and how do they look, and listening to older mariachi music. And there are plenty of other different Mexican genres too. So maybe comparing and contrasting that. For me, I grew up in northeastern Colorado, and there's a large German population there, and we would have wedding dances, and polka bands would play there. And there are definite similarities between polka and mariachi. So comparing maybe some of those
Oh,
different types of music, like what do you hear that's similar? What is different? In our teacher's guide, we also have like how to make a tambourine, like from paper plates, but there are lots of things online. I wanted to include something fairly simple for our younger readers, but you can make, you know, a cardboard guitar. That's a little more labor intensive. And, you know, so that's why I did not include that in our teacher's guide, but there are different ways to kind of make your own instruments. Um, yeah, do you have other thoughts? I'm trying to think of other, and I'm looking at my notes in case I had written anything else down. Sorry.
Not really, since I was in choir, and I think that's a passion that, you know, you carry with you regardless. It's your own instrument. I think that's the biggest thing is if you have a passion for the performing arts, there's always a way to perform, whatever that may look like. You know, if it's just singing in the shower or singing in the car, you're still a performer, so don't stop it, you know.
yeah.
And that's the other thing, is you should celebrate it more and enjoy singing in front of people and enjoy performing in front of people, because that's another thing that I struggle with is, you know, you have a talent that's really good behind closed doors, but you get locked up in front of people. It's something that you should enjoy sharing with others.
Well,
That's a
and
great
this,
point.
yeah, this story really ties into that, because this is
Yeah.
Rosa, the little girl's first time performing on stage with her mommy's group, and she's nervous, you know, like as we all would be. So this is very much also about stage fright and overcoming that fear, especially when you have the support of a group around you,
Right.
that's lifting you up. So yeah, and the voice piece, there's something called gritos, like kind of emotional yells that you hear
Yeah.
in mariachi music.
Yeah.
And that's a really fun thing to maybe practice in as an extension in class. It's hard. I can't, you know, like it's not something I can't do it well anyway, and I can't do it on command, but it's a fun thing to practice and explore, especially because you were talking about kind of your voice is your own instrument.
Yeah.
And that is, and the emotion of mariachi music, that's something I'm still not fluent in Spanish. But even as a kid, when we would go to Mexican restaurants and listen to mariachi music, because my dad loved that, yeah, you can feel the emotion. You don't have to speak the language. You can feel that emotion. So just a listening activity where you play clips and, you know, what emotions are you feeling? Just a feeling activity around that, I think would be really fun to do too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. While we're talking about the musical aspect, I know that you know, you had wanted to talk about a little bit maybe more about the female mariachi as opposed to the traditional mariachi. So maybe this would be a good time to dig into that
Yeah,
idea.
I love that. I think the history of any genre is important to know. And this genre, so mariachi music, most people agree that it originated in the Mexican state of Jalisco, which is the state where your papi was born, where his dad is from. So that's another kind of connection. And when it originated, it's always been like a celebratory kind of music. It's celebratory in different ways, because I talk about the emotion, and some of the songs are very sad, you know. So sometimes mariachi is played at funerals, but sometimes it's played at weddings, and it, you know, like, so it's a community kind of a music. You'll see it being played in the plazas and the town squares, in the gazebos there for everyone. Like it's always around. But it originally, when the musicians would travel, women were not allowed to be part of these bands, these ensembles, because they would travel to places where alcohol was being consumed, and there might be disrespect to the women. It might be questionable for them to be amidst these groups of people. So it was kind of a taboo thing. And still, depending on who you talk to, it still could be viewed as a taboo thing to have a woman be part of an ensemble or to have an all-female group. But in 19, and I'm going to refer to my notes because my brain
course.
doesn't always hold this, and I do want to be respectful. 1903, a woman named Rosa Carino, who our Rosa is named after, she is potentially the first female mariachi player. Like, she's the first documented person that we know of, woman that we know of. And she was 13 years old when she joined, and she was strong, and she would carry guns, and she knew how to protect herself while she performed. And I just think about this passion for performing that had to have driven her, like, like the fire that was in her soul to guide her, to put her in that place. Like, I'm going to play, whether I have to defend myself or not, I'm going to play. And she really paved the way for other women who came after. And there's, in the 1940s, Lola Beltran is someone who is very well known and very well respected, who was a performer who also paved the way. The person that we really, really connected with and interviewed is the musical director of the Mariachi Mariposas, and her name is Mayra Garcia. And so she advised us. Here's also an image of Lola Beltran that Mirel Ortega, the amazing illustrator, created. And then here's Rosa. So this is all in our back matter. But Mayra also really guided us and gave us some advice about, what current life is like as a person who is guiding an all-female mariachi group. And they are becoming more and more common, especially with school mariachi programs. You see lots of females in those programs. And so that is opening, those school programs are opening so many doors. But still not, I don't know the percentages. The percentages we have in our back matter were kind of the only numbers we could find, and that was like 5% of the performers are female. I think the numbers are higher now, but there's still not enough representation. Sorry, do you want to add anything? I talked a lot.
No, go for it.
Awesome. So is there anything that you would like to share with our audience about the journey of the book, either the writing side or the publication side?
Well, I think my input on this would be, there was a lot of revisions made, and sometimes it just came down to those like nitty-picky details where it's like, I really care about the phrasing of this, and I want to make sure that the kids reading this get the most out of it, or I feel that the illustrations made didn't have enough diversity or didn't show enough colors that I thought should be represented, or whatever it may be. It really just came down to a lot of communication with both my mom, the illustrators, and our publishers, but also, it's just what felt right to myself and also my mom while we were writing this. It's a hard thing to put on paper sometimes, so a lot of it comes down to that emotion and how do we convey that best.
Yeah, it was so cool to work with you and to work with your sister and the differences.
Yeah.
Ofrenda is a rhyming book, and Cheyenne's musical ear was so helpful because she could pick out rhythm and things like that at the point where I was like rhythm deaf. I would be like, I can't hear it anymore. And she was so good at that, and also good at choosing just the right word. And writing with you, it's so lyrical and poetic, and it's just, I love having that experience with both of them and having it have those differences so that I can see the different pieces of my kids shine. It's really, really beautiful. And to Dakota's point about the illustrations, Muriel did such a beautiful job of showing diversity. This is a different mariachi ensemble in the Trajes de Charro piece where she's talking about the different parts of the suit and showing diversity there. And Dakota he was a stickler for wanting diversity represented within, you know, like different types of hair, color, texture, different body types and heights and things like that. And skin colors, you know, even though this is a mariachi group where this music originates in Mexico, there are people who are not from Mexico who are playing, and people within Mexico run the diaspora
Of
of color
course.
and shapes
Yeah.
and size, you know, like, so we need to really be careful that we are portraying that. And here, yeah, here's an illustration that shows Mireille's gorgeous rendition of, you know, those requests of like, please could we have a diverse group of ages, shapes, colors, you know, like,
Yeah.
because it's so important that people be able to see themselves or someone they're reminded of within those illustrations.
Right. And I think it goes back to Dakota's point earlier about everybody has a place. And when we illustrate that for people with our words and with our pictures, then it gives them the open door to step into to say, "Oh, you mean short people can do this? Oh, you mean fat people can do this? Oh, you mean tall people can do this? I can say fat because I am." So no disrespect intended for my audience. So I'm there with you. So just to clarify, but yeah, all body types and all, you know, all of those are included, and then it opens the door for those people. I don't think it's always about, um you know, like, I think that's an important piece of it, is opening the door for those people, and not just, oh, I can see myself, but I can see myself becoming also, right? And
Yeah.
so that's really beautiful, because you're saying to these people that you're representing, you know, you can be part of this as well, which speaks back to your point of everybody has a place on the stage, and your passion is your passion, and it should be shared, and you should have an opportunity to do that, which I love.
Yeah, I love that too.
Yeah. Powerful, really good stuff.
Mhm.
Anything I don't want to shortchange anything. Is there anything else about, I love your comments about revision, Dakota. I think I think as a young writer, it's so wise of you to have had this opportunity and to recognize how much revision, because I think that's something that a lot of times people going into writing don't necessarily realize how much revision plays a role, and how powerful it is. And also the collaboration. Like, I think when I came into the writing community, I had this idea, and I think it's so much different now. But I think there's so much talk about writing being solitary, you know, and writing being solitary and writing being solitary. And I think in the beginning, my thoughts were, if it's not all me, then I can't take the credit, you know. And I think now there's so much more openness about, oh, well, we have critique partners, and we have critique groups, and we have all these people that are collaborating with us. You know, my idea, my story, I'm going to take the credit for this, but there's so many hands and voices that go into a book, whether it's co-authored or not. Still, even if you're the sole author, you know, there's so many other voices that come into play. So I love the idea of collaboration being, um, a big point for this book as well. Is it January 7th? Is that?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, good
Yeah.
memory.
Yeah, January 7th, this book is out. And
Mhm.
so I want to give you a chance to shout out any big events that you have coming up, or any new projects that you have, or anything else you want to shout out about the upcoming things.
Okay, so
I guess an update on myself would just be I'm in my senior year of college, and
yay.
um I'm trying to go for a master's, and the one thing I would say is whatever that spotlight may look like, you know, you should get in front of it. You should push yourself to pursue whatever passions you might have, if that's academic or musically or whatever it may be, right? Just do what feels right to you, and it might be hard sometimes, and it might feel like crap, but you're capable of doing it. And if you really care about it, you'll continue to do it because you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to graduate, and I'm excited to spend time with my mom and my sister at our book launch on the 4th. So I hope you guys show up.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's what you've been telling yourself to get through. Like, this is his senior year, and then he'll do one more year to complete his master's program. So next year will be
Oh,
his
nice.
actual real end. But it's an engineering program. It's rigorous. My brain is not STEM brain fully. Like that is hard work. And I know your brain works with that kind of stuff, but it's still hard work for you. It doesn't mean it's easy. So
Right.
watching how much effort he's put into this and really how persistent you've been has been really beautiful. I'm proud of you. For me, I have a picture book that I co-authored with a Japanese American man named Minoru Tonai. And Min passed away a little over a year ago. But prior to his passing, he knew the book was going to be published. He helped select the illustrator, who's Chris Sasaki, and he's amazing. I've seen some of the final art, and it is literally breathtaking. The first spread that I saw had me in tears. So powerful. And this is the story of Min and his family during the Japanese American incarceration during World War II. And so his father was taken first by the FBI unjustly and for really no reason. And then Min and the rest of his family were incarcerated in an incarceration camp here in Colorado. They came from California and were incarcerated here in Colorado in MAMIACHI. And so Min and I met and worked together to co-author this story and worked for years to kind of find the right fit to tell it in the right way and do justice to this story. And I think we found it, and I think Chris's illustrations really add to it. And I've been working with Min's adult children. They're still giving feedback on the text and on the illustrations and things like that. So that will be out April of 2026. And I am just so honored to be a part of that project.
Love it. Yeah. Yeah. Important. Sounds like a very important story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you both so much for joining me on this post-turkey day, and so exciting to talk about Mamiachi. And I love how I often talk about on PBJamz how, I have questions, but then there always seems to be a little theme that bubbles to the surface, and that has nothing to do with my questions. It's all about the book and the conversation that we have back and forth. And I love that this little thing that bubbled up was the importance of school music programs and how valuable they are. And it kept just kind of, weaving its way through the conversation. So I really, as a music teacher and someone who started in a school music program, I love that kind of was the thing that bubbled up in this episode. So thank you, Dakota, that you were the precursor for that one. So thank you so much for your contribution to the conversation today. It was lovely. And I do think the music teachers are going to be very appreciative of how they're represented in this episode. So thank you for that. Thank you both for joining us for this episode of PBJamz, the very first one for this year. I am honored to be elevating your book in this way, and it's so lovely, and I wish you all the great success. And never have I wanted to be in Denver more than for the launch on January 4th. Doggone it. I would love to be there. I will be with you in spirit.
Thank you. Yeah, you've cheered us on always, and we're so grateful for your support. Thank you, Tani.
Yeah, I am grateful for your friendship too, and all the fun ways that we've interacted. And Dakota, it's lovely to meet you, and I wish you all the best in your schooling. That sounds super exciting. You're going to set the world on fire.
Let's hope. Well, in the best way possible.
In the best way, of course.
Yeah.
Not like burn it down, but set it on fire.
I've heard a lot about you as well, and my mom always talks up a lot of her friends in this community, and it's just great to actually put a face to the name. So thank you for having me on as well.
Same, of course. Well, you guys go enjoy the rest of your family time. All the blessings.
Thank you.
All right.
PBJamz, yummy books and music. PBJamz, reading, writing, teaching. PBJamz, what a yummy treat. Jamming PBs all the time. PBJamz, jams. Picture books and jams. We'll see you next time.